Welcome to the Unlock Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Casey, and today I'm here with two good friends of mine, Dr. Erin Zovath and her husband, Zach Zovath. Dr. Erin and Zach own a family wellness practice in Jacksonville, Florida, called Bold City Health. And with their practice, they're completely transforming the health of their city and impacting so many families' lives. And at Bold City Health, they not only provide chiropractic care, but also have a large emphasis on nutrition, mindset, and Zach has really taken their fitness program to the next level. So they're doing a lot of great work, and thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. We're happy to be a part and be able to do this with you.
Yeah, we love being able to share.
Awesome. So before we get going, do you guys both want to give a little bit of a background about yourself so people get to know you a little better and know how living this lifestyle has changed your own lives and how you're currently raising your family?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up having a lot of health issues, and when I was really young, it was kind of the normal sickness that we assume, common but not normal, where I was on antibiotics a lot, having constant strep infections, bronchitis. I had asthma and, kind of dealt with those things. But then when I got into high school is really when my health started going more downhill with autoimmune issues. And what I know now, I've realized that the stuff I was dealing with when I was younger was a sign that my immune system wasn't developed. So through high school, I started having just multiple autoimmune issues come up. And I had a great family doctor who couldn't tell me why it was happening. And just said, a lot of people deal with these things and we'll just keep managing it with medication. I ended up having asthma that was progressing to the point that a nebulizer treatment a day wasn't helping. I was on oral steroids and that still wasn't helping. I did competitive dancing and couldn't even get through the 2-minute routines.
Wow.
Without having an asthma attack. And the most frustrating thing, I think, was to have all these doctors and specialists that I had gone to say that they didn't know why it was happening and that I'd have to be on the medication. And, it was kind of like, well, that's a solution. If you're on the medication and the steroids can manage it, then you're good. But I was very blessed that I had a hip injury during one of my dance competitions, and it led me to see a doctor that does what we do with structural correction. And I found out I had a reverse curve in my neck that was a huge component that was affecting my immune system, that was affecting how my body was communicating and healing. So, went through the process of what we do now with our patients, and fortunately was able to come off all those medications. And it's been over 10 years that I haven't had to take anything, which is amazing. Yeah.
And it's funny because you don't usually hear it's a blessing that you had a hip injury, but that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we try to change the mindset with our patients that you look at whatever you're going through, there's a good thing coming out of it. So, we kind of went into starting our family. We have 2 little boys now, and I wanted to make sure that they never had to go through what I went through. Mm-hmm. And so we focus on a lifestyle of health, and our oldest son is almost 6 now. And
it's crazy.
yeah, I know. I remember he was my little baby. We want him to learn that every day we focus on health as a family, because then we can do more fun things together. We have more time together and we have a quality of life.
Yeah. And I've seen his videos with Zach. I know he understands what true health is, which is amazing.
It's fun. We get the chance to, instill our values, and where it kind of came for me with health was, I was fortunate to never really have any colds, or I wasn't ever really sick as a child. I didn't have the symptoms of not being well. And, now it feels like I'm playing catch up to try to offset some of the poor choices I made when I was growing up. I was smaller in high school. I wrestled and ran track. So, there was that. It seemed like I felt like I could get away with eating whatever I wanted because I wasn't gaining weight. And, that's what I looked at health as. If I didn't look like I wasn't well, then that meant I was healthy. And
right.
I had this in my mind that fitness equaled health. And it took a long time for me to really, really notice the the big impacts of making these overall changes and how important it could be. And then when we had our son, it became, well, I don't want him to have to play catch up when he's older. So, we've always focused on health as a family, but it's never been a do this because this is what we're doing. We've always wanted him to be really empowered. And both our boys, Ezra is a little young now to really wrap his head around and understand this, but we want it for our family to understand that this is why we do it, and we want them to both own that. So when they're older, they're not having to play catch up. They don't have to worry about being handed down any poor genetics that we've been handed down by our family. We wanted to make sure that Erin and I ended that when we had our boys, and it's something that we're trying to change our family tree in a positive way.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because when you think of, you were saying you were athletic growing up, there wasn't really anything major, but like sometimes that's almost just as dangerous, because if you look the part and you don't feel bad and you're in shape or thin, like you think that you're healthy, but I mean, obviously it's just building up, and it's kind of a recipe for disaster. So you kind of keep living how you have been. So that can almost be just as worse.
Yeah. We talk about the worst symptom is no symptom.
Yeah.
When you're living an unhealthy lifestyle and you look good and feel good and assume that you're healthy, but that's just waiting for crisis to hit.
Exactly. So, I know this month your office over at Bold City, they're doing a lot more with nutrition. Summer's coming up, so people are a little bit more into nutrition these days, in this time frame with nutrition and metabolic conditioning. So you guys have a big workshop coming up. So what are some of the topics that you guys are going to be teaching and teaching them how to implement?
Well, we really wanted to do this workshop because we find that when we're taking a patient from, eating the way that our culture teaches us, and then we're trying to get them to learn a healthy way of eating, their body is conditioned to where they were for so many years. That we have a lot of patients with blood sugar imbalances, hormone issues, and we try to convert them from sugar burning to fat burning, but their body gets stuck and isn't able to fully convert into that fat burning mode. And that's where our body should be. We're not meant to burn sugar for fuel. That's not a long-term energy source. It's not efficient either. It's something that we need to be training our body to get back into the fat burning mode like we were designed to, but our patients get stuck and they can't truly get into that, and they fluctuate back and forth. So we really wanted to incorporate a workshop that we can do everything we can to drive that hormonal repair. A lot of people don't look at blood sugar imbalances as a hormone issue, but insulin's a hormone. Mm-hmm. And so if we're not doing the full metabolic repair with it, people can make these nutrition changes and they're not really seeing the health benefits associated with it until they can really get into that fat burning mode.
And it's funny that, you made a really good point. Right now is when typically people start paying attention to what they're eating, how they're exercising, because they want to lose weight to get in shape for summer once we're already in summer. So we're very much a product of, we want things to happen very quickly, and we want it to happen when we want it to happen.
Right.
So this workshop is a great way to just lay the groundwork that this isn't going to be necessarily a quick fix for a lot of people, or for some people, but it's going to set a positive spin on a healthy lifestyle. So it's something that they don't have to worry about trying to jump into and catching, January 1st when they make the resolution to lose 10, 15, 20 pounds, and then they give up by March. We want to make this a lifestyle change. So those resolutions,
just setting them up, like a jump start almost. That way they can, get started on the right foot and then just make it sustainable, really.
Well, yeah, exactly. And this is, we're going to be having, after the end of the workshop, we're going to be doing a 21-day challenge. So we're getting that very beginning part of forming a habit, so we can make this something that we show them, you got through this challenge. Now we just need to build on that and push forward and keep.
Yeah, we want the changes to be a lifestyle change, that they're not doing it for a period of time. It becomes a healthy lifestyle that we're incorporating. So that the concepts that we're really going to be hitting on at the workshop are going to be getting into ketosis and how we incorporate intermittent fasting to help our body to drive into that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you want to get into intermittent fasting a little bit more? Because that's not something that we've really had anybody cover in very much detail yet on the podcast. So I think people would be really interested in hearing more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we we get our patients, number one, to start cutting out obviously processed foods, and we move them into core plan where they're having very minimal healthy grains. We try to limit fruit, so we're cutting out sugars, and then once they're there for a period of time, then we drive them into advanced plan, where we're consuming the majority fat and then protein, and then the lowest amount of our calories are going to come from carbs, from vegetables. Do you want to hit on the percentages of those?
Yeah. So the way we teach nutrition when we're going more strict with things is about 70 to 80% of our calories are going to be coming from healthy fats. Things like avocado, coconut, raw nuts and seeds. Our proteins are going to be 20 to 25%. And this is where a lot of people typically go wrong when they do this type of plan, or they try to go into ketosis. They follow a keto plan, where their protein becomes more elevated. And then we have the issues of that breaking down like a carbohydrate would and causing the same amount of inflammation. So we're having a moderately low amount of protein, and then 5 to 10% of our calories would be coming from those carbohydrates. And we look at, more importantly than just carbohydrates across the board, we're focusing on the net carbs. So when we incorporate intermittent fasting along with this, we're closing the window of time that our body's digesting food, breaking things down, absorbing those nutrients. And ideally for us, we try to shoot for a 6-hour window, but when we start people out, I'd say most people now are eating 12 to 14 hours in a day. They're consuming when they wake up at 5, they may have breakfast around 6, and then they eat dinner around 6 or 7. So we're helping them shorten that window so their body can focus on healing and repairing other areas of weakness.
And where this is important to incorporate is when you're switching into consuming more fats. When your body is trained to burn sugar, it needs to convert. So a lot of people have their energy start to drop. Sugar is an easy burn. We talk about with our patients that sugar is like putting a piece of paper on a fire. It's going to burn really quickly, but then it's done. So you have that really quick short burst of energy, and then you crash. So
Right.
People have these insulin spikes up and down throughout the day, and they have energy, then they're tired, then they have energy, then they're tired, and there's no sustained energy within that. And a lot of our patients notice that they wake up in the morning starving, and that's a sign that your blood sugar is actually not great, that you need to go through metabolic repair. So
Right.
by incorporating intermittent fasting, this allows us to get to the next level of hormonal repair, because it starts to balance out insulin levels and starts to correct the past insulin resistance that a lot of people have built over the years of just draining their receptors from spiking up and down.
Right. And like you were saying, whenever you're making those metabolic hormonal repairs, I mean, it is a process. Like Zach was saying, it's not a quick fix, but the more that you stick to this type of eating plan, and I'm sure you'll get into it in a little bit, but different forms of exercise that's also going to help with hormonal balance, over time, your body is going to turn to a fat burner, and the energy will be more sustainable. And it's would be more lifestyle change.
Yeah, and it's great when you get to that point. When you start burning fat for energy, it's, we talk about, okay, so that's when you put the log on the fire, it doesn't catch right away. It takes time to get it going.
Right.
But a log on the fire is going to burn for a good period of time, generating a lot of heat. So
Exactly.
When we get into that fat burning mode where we constantly have an energy supply, so we have this sustained level of energy throughout the day, and we don't get to where we're starving throughout the day, that, we could start to train our body to burn our own fat stores as well when it's looking for it. So we start our patients with, like Zach was saying, most people are eating, I would say probably about a 12-hour window.
Mm-hmm.
When we start talking with our patients, if they get up at 5, 6 in the morning and have breakfast before going to work, and then they don't eat dinner until 5 or 6 o'clock at night, that's going to be a 12-hour eating window. And that's assuming that they don't eat anything again before bed.
Which most people do.
Yeah, which most people do.
Right.
And so the problem is throughout that whole 12-hour window, our blood sugar is spiking up and down. And it takes a lot of energy for our body to break down food and digest it. And so that means that whole time, there's not energy left over for our body to heal and repair. So if we shorten our eating window down to 6 to 8 hours, that actually allows a longer window of time that our insulin levels become stabilized, and our body has more energy left over for healing and repair. A really cool thing that they had looked at with fasting, there was a study they found 3 days of fasting can actually completely reboot your immune system.
Yeah, there's so much research, and it's interesting too because, I mean, even like within the Bible, there's so much talk about fasting and, just your body just healing and repairing. I mean, like it's been out there for a really long time.
But yeah, I think it was University of Southern California did this study. They looked at it in 2006. So we used that as a way, to incorporate a 3-day fast when we did a juicing workshop a few months ago, and it was great to just see our patients really embrace that challenge and take it on, and that for a lot of people kickstarted a lot more healthy choices when it comes to nutrition. So when you fast or when you juice only for 3 days, then going to eating a meal or incorporating smoothies throughout the day as well, it's a lot easier task to take at hand.
Yeah, and that we had been eating what we call advanced plan, or pretty much what people look at as a ketogenic diet. We have been eating that way for a while, and I had actually found, though, with being a mom and working full time, that my energy was just not where it should be, and I was having in the morning, I was getting tired and I had a hard time getting started with things. So I was eating right away when I got up. We get up about 5 a.m. So I was eating, and, when we really started looking into this, my eating window was like 14 hours because I don't leave the office until, 7, 8 o'clock sometimes. So I can't have dinner earlier because I'm seeing patients at that time. So that's the nice thing about intermittent fasting is you have your 6 to 8 hour window, and you can fluctuate that however your lifestyle needs you to.
Right. So are you you're probably eating your first meal at lunch then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, since I can't change dinner time, then I would wait until about noon before I had my first meal. And when I started calculating and looking into it, I was like, holy cow, I'm not going to be able to make it till noon without food because I'm up and adjusting patients. So it requires a lot of energy, and we primarily work out in the morning. So it's like, okay, I'm going to work out and then I'm going to adjust patients, and I'm not going to have anything in me. I was like, I'm going to die. So when I started doing it, and we encourage patients, is you don't just all of a sudden cut your eating window. It's over a period of time, you start pushing it back. So I waited until 8, 9 o'clock, and then I would have a smoothie. And then I would push it back till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And then it started to get where I wasn't even hungry. I'm not even thinking about food. My stomach wasn't growling, nothing. And now I've been doing it for such a long time that if I eat before noon, I'm more tired.
Really?
I noticed that it actually shuts down my energy systems, and I have way more energy when I'm waiting until that time period.
Do you will you have any type of drink in between, in the morning during that fasting time? Do you have juice or coffee or anything like that, or is it just straight water?
No, you can actually have some things. So lemon water is great to have first thing with waking up, because you've gone all night and your body is detoxing and your body is going through healing. So that actually helps with detoxing, having lemon water right in the morning. And then we'll do coffee, but you don't want to do obviously sugar and cream. Keep it.
I personally try to stay around 35 to 50 calories. So, I would do powdered greens or sometimes bulletproof coffee or something like that.
Doing bulletproof coffee is great in the morning because you're adding the healthy fats in with the coffee. So, it's not that you can't have anything. We don't want to have our first meal until we hit that point there. So, it's amazing how much better you feel. The inflammation goes down. My body literally feels better when I'm doing intermittent fasting. And if we're on vacation or we're doing things that our schedule gets thrown off, I notice my body just hurts more, my joints and everything, that you can feel that inflammation. Even if we're not even bad, it's just the timing of it. I can, tell that my blood sugar is starting to get a little bit imbalanced, that insulin's having to be released more, and that causes more inflammation.
Well, yeah. You have to think about the average person's eating schedule, and it's, you eat first thing when you wake up, maybe a snack in between, and then almost everybody is going to say they have a crash right about 2 o'clock. And that's usually when people are, taking down more caffeine. But, it's just their bodies aren't able to, regulate like they're supposed to, like you guys are doing. So
well, that's the biggest sign of, of being a sugar burner is when you get that hormone switch and that 3 o'clock crash, and I remember that there's the almond commercial on TV that talks about it. And they say, well, eat healthy fats and it'll help, correct that. Mm-hmm. And I think, a lot of people, when they hear intermittent fasting, they immediately want to shut down because we were told you need to eat within an hour of waking up so you can start your metabolism.
Or working out.
Yeah, and you have this magic window of time that if you don't consume protein 30 minutes after you exercise, you're not going to build muscle and you're going to start breaking down muscle. And, there's so much science and so much research out there disproving all of that.
Yeah, people still go through nutrition from like the 80s is what they're.
It's crazy. Those textbooks are awful and they're so old. I mean, even in like a medical school environment, even if they have nutrition, but yeah, all the resources are just so outdated.
What you looked into, Zach, doing the nutrition certification program with Dietitian.
Yeah, and it was the college up here in Jacksonville has a nutrition and dietetics program, and when I was going in that, it was a lot of the research and the materials are based off of the food pyramid. Like we don't even use the food pyramid anymore. They use a plate, but they're talking about
that's what nutritionists are being taught is stuff
that's insane. That's crazy.
Had a patient today, 2 days ago. They came in for an appointment and they were at University of Florida with the best endocrinologists on campus, and they met with their registered dietitian, one of the head dietitians, and they were saying they were giving them this advice for nutrition, and the dietitian themselves was about 100 pounds overweight, and from a stance of from the patient, she was like, how am I going to take nutrition advice for somebody that doesn't even follow what they're recommending? And I think when a lot of people hear intermittent fasting, aside from the fact, they're like, well, we need to make sure we're eating right away and making our metabolism run so it runs efficiently. Then they hear intermittent fasting and they think, well, we're going to go through some crash diet. In this 6 to 8 hour window that we're eating, we're only getting like 500 calories. Mm-hmm. When, I know for Erin and myself, we're both consuming over 1,500 to almost 2,000 calories in that smaller window. So our body's very efficiently breaking down those nutrients and processing those calories. So it's not like we're going.
You still get to eat a good amount,
yeah. Right?
It's just during a shorter window of time that you're consuming those calories instead of spreading it out throughout the day.
Yeah, if anything, that almost psychologically could be a good thing because it feels like you get to eat a lot more, all at once.
Yeah, and you're waiting such a long time for the meals that it's like you're excited to have a really good meal.
Right.
It's not like you want to eat something quick and cheap. Yeah. You want something that's a good meal.
If you're only eating 2 times a day, you only have 2 meals that you're taking your calories in with. You never want a bad meal. You always want to make sure that whatever you're putting in is really good and it's building health. And that's the big thing we teach with both our boys. It's, yeah, you can have it. I want you to make the choice, but ask yourself, is this building health or is this building disease? And it sounds maybe extreme to ask a 5-year-old, but we want him to own it. And
yeah, well, he definitely does it.
Yeah, if he looks at all the fun stuff that he's going to do that day. So, we're like, we have all these things that we're going to do. Look at the food that you're going to eat. Is that going to give you the energy that you need so you can keep having fun and playing?
Right.
And, it's for a kid, they're like, well, heck yeah, I want to keep having fun. So yeah, what do I need so I can have all the energy that I need?
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the fact that it's not low calorie, because that's obviously not the point, and that's not what you want to do, because whenever you restrict yourself like that, that's going to cause even more hormonal issues. So I like that you brought that up, because a lot of people do think that is like a low calorie restriction type of diet.
And the thing to remember as well is that you're consuming more fat than protein, and fat tastes good. So you get to, and you feel full with consuming it. And a lot of people can go wrong, even with doing a ketogenic diet, that they're consuming too much protein. I know Zach had kind of hit on that earlier, is people will tend to do the paleo type, where almost Atkins, where they're doing the majority of their calories are coming from protein. And if you're consuming too much protein, that's going to be detrimental for your health.
You can't break it down, and your kidneys can't handle it.
Yeah, kidney damage, and then also the storage, it's going to break down as sugar. I mean, your body, it's going to, if you're not burning that protein, it's going to get stored somewhere.
Well, that's what gets where people get confused of nutritional ketosis and ketoacidosis. When those ratios of your macros are off, you set yourself up for a much more damaging type of.
Right. And I was going to actually ask you about that because, I think an argument with it, and that, it's just the lack of understanding, but if people saying, well, isn't that like a starvation or crisis mode when you're in ketosis? So I think that's kind of where you were going, right?
Right. And the difference between the two, when you look at ketosis, you have lower levels of blood ketones, or ketones in the blood. So it's not something extremely high that's going to be causing that physical tax on your kidneys. It's a normal process for our body. It's actually, our brain runs much more efficiently off of ketones than it does glucose, and the ideal sources of energy would be ketones and fat for our brain. And so we're giving it the best, most optimal fuel source. It's completely safe when you're going low carb, moderate protein, and high fat. Where the difference with ketoacidosis, they're extremely high levels of ketones in your blood, and it's when your blood actually starting to become acidic. It's turning acidic in that process, and that's usually something that occurs within diabetes.
Yeah.
That's something that, ketoacidosis is something we don't want to be in, and a big difference with what ketosis actually is. And with what we teach our patients is this isn't like it's becoming like a fad word now, which is kind of funny. Everyone's like, "Ooh, I'm doing the new keto diet." And it's like, this is how God designed us to eat. Like, this isn't like this new health fad that, wow, there's this magic trick of doing this. This is how we should be eating. And everything we teach our patients, it comes down to, let's take care of our body the way that God designed it, the way that we were intended to live and how we were intended to eat. So,
exactly.
If you look at where people go wrong with paleo is, they think that they would be this amazing hunter. I don't know, people are kind of really skewed with it. Like, you think that every day you would be able to kill a large animal, that you have this giant steak. Like,
right. For 3 meals a day, plus a meat snack. And
realistically, if you were left to hunt on your own, the majority would be like small game, really like lean type protein that you're consuming. You would not have this giant, fatty, humongous steak.
And really maybe only once or twice a month. I mean, if you think about it like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a once in a while type thing that you would have. So, I mean, that's where that's where things can go wrong, is the thinking like, oh, well, if I'm eating protein, like I'm just going to have giant amounts of meat all day long. Like, no, you're not.
Right. And it's people too, whenever a lot of weight loss programs or, advice and people are, working out more and they're just consuming so much extra protein powders. And that's, obviously doing the negative effect, because it's, your body, like we were talking about earlier, your body can't process it, and then it's turning to sugars, which is turning to more body fat.
Yeah, when we go through nutrition with people and we break down the individual macros for each person, we'll give them an idea of how much their body needs based off of their activity level, where they're at with body weight, body composition, what their goals are, and that's where it's got to be a sliding scale daily for each person. So if somebody's working out a ton, they're going to need a lot more protein than a day where you're binge watching Netflix. So we go through the importance of that. And I generally cap nearly every person when we go through nutrition. We cap them about 35 grams of protein in one sitting. So within an hour, humans have a really easy time processing and assimilating about 35 grams of protein. Beyond that, there's obviously going to be some wiggle room from person to person, but around that, when you go above 35 grams, it begins causing more of an inflammatory state. So, that's probably one of the biggest things that we try to stress when, especially going through advanced plan or, a keto diet, getting those macros and making sure that they know how much protein they need in a day or at a given meal.
Yeah, we have a lot of patients who, when they start changing the nutrition that they're doing, they'll initially have weight loss and then they kind of plateau a little bit. And we find that a lot of times they're consuming way too much protein. We had a patient, she was consuming, how much was it a day?
She's like 2 grams per pound body weight. So she was getting like almost, it was almost like ridiculous. I think it was like almost 200 grams.
Wow.
And she wasn't working out. I'm like, what's?
It was just
way
too
too
much protein. And then, there's then the concern that it's going to be causing more strain on kidneys, needing to break down that. And so we want to make sure that we're doing this right, and people can go wrong with this. So you've got to make sure that we can't take the good that we like with this and only do it how we want to do it. There's a specific way that you need to.
Well, what wasn't Dr. Atkins saying? Like, you can have a double cheeseburger, just take off the bun, and like nutrition advice that most people they well, I like that, so I'm going to do that, but then they forget that didn't Atkins die of a heart attack or heart disease? Like,
I think so.
A lot of people that were doing the Atkins diet got very harmed. They had weight loss, but they had a lot of health issues that came along.
Died a little bit skinnier, right?
Yeah.
And that's really probably the biggest issue is that we have so many choices and there's so much information out there. We caution people about going on Google to try to find support for whatever diet you like, because you can literally find the bacon diet. We had a patient a few months ago, for lunch, they ate like a pack of bacon was their lunch. And we just broke down, we took out the toxins and that side of things. We just looked at how much fat, protein, and carbs he was taking in. And because he was doing Atkins, it fell within the range of healthy macros for his plan. And like it was shocking.
That's crazy. Well, it's crazy that they can get to a point to where they think that that's like, safe, and that they've, the research that they were looking at made it seem like it was a good option.
Well, and we have a lot of patients who their doctors will say, you need to lose weight. And then they're like, okay, well, I know I need to lose weight for my health, but they will find any way to do it. And then they assume if they're losing weight that they're actually getting healthier in the process, but that's not always the case.
Right. And then the old science, like we were talking about earlier, usually recommends like high protein, low fat, when it's actually opposite. Yeah.
Well, everyone knows they need to exercise and eat right, but the problem is people don't know how to exercise and eat right. And that's our biggest passion, is that we want to just teach people simple, common sense approach to health that makes sense. And people can logically get through it and incorporate every aspect of it. So we're not just, like a salad bar picking the things that we like to do. Because if you like to exercise, you're going to exercise. If you don't like to eat right, you're not going to. So we try to lay things out in a very clear-cut way that people realize, okay, this isn't something that I necessarily have the choice to do. But if I want the freedom of living a healthy lifestyle, I need to have the self-discipline now and make these choices something permanent.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to get into like the exercise portion in just a second. But before we do that, I kind of had a question with, what if somebody was pregnant and they wanted to follow this type of eating plan? Is that safe for them to do? Or is there certain like alterations that they can make?
There's a little bit of the ratios that you want to change during pregnancy.
Protein comes up.
The protein is going to be going up. So the percentages that Zach went through earlier, that's going to change a little bit with pregnancy. But actually, after having the baby, there's been research that doing this type of plan, going in ketosis, is actually a good thing to help, because you think about after the pregnancy, your hormones need to get reset.
Right.
So it helps a woman to be able to get into that. And, we have a lot of women that have postpartum depression and have issues losing weight and have a difficult time producing milk. Yeah. Milk supply issues. And when we're correcting hormones, we can assist the body in being able to recover more quickly after the pregnancy. I've had so many patients, like, they were amazed that I was back in the office and, doing everything that I was doing right afterwards. And, it's different when you have a healthy lifestyle.
Right. And I know we didn't mention it, but, Dr. Erin, just had a baby. How old? I mean, how long was that?
Just turned 3 months.
Oh, so cute. But yeah, so I mean, she's, living it and, is seeing the results. So, it works.
Yeah. And, being back in the office, it was probably about 2 weeks after having him, I was back in part-time. And then it was about 5 weeks after I went back in full-time, and I've still been able to, keep a supply up. He's strictly, drinking breast milk, and haven't had any issue with doing it.
We've got a deep freeze full of.
Yeah, it's too much milk.
There's no such thing. So yeah. Yeah. So I guess we could, jump into the exercise portion a little bit, because there are certain ways to exercise to help your hormones balance and really go hand in hand with this type of eating. I know that you guys are doing a lot with that. And so I guess just jump in.
Yeah. So probably one of the most exciting aspect of getting into this, metabolic repair is through metabolic conditioning, and that type of exercise and the research with it. There's so much great information coming out. I was just listening to some audio from Dr. Martin Gabala, who is a professor at McMaster University up in Canada, and he's got over hundreds of peer-reviewed research articles looking specifically at using high-intensity interval training or HIIT training and metabolic conditioning as a way to increase VO2 max and really just prolong longevity for people, not just athletes. So they took this research and they looked at exercising in a way of bringing your heart rate to an increased rate. It doesn't have to be to have a huge impact. It doesn't even have to be extremely elevated. Our workouts, we tend to try to shoot for people to get up into 80 to 90% of their maximum heart rate. But some of the research he was looking at, they did just a walking group, and 20 participants did an interval walk where they would increase how fast they were walking for 20, 30 seconds, and then they would reduce down to a slow pace or a recovery pace for 20, 30 seconds. And they did this for maybe about 45 minutes total for the week. And then he took another group of people, 20 participants, that would go on a 2-hour walk daily. And the increase in VO2 max for the short group that walked only for 45 minutes total was nearly double improvement. They started having a higher metabolic rate. They took actual blood. They looked at insulin sensitivity, and they were measuring A1C. They did all kinds of different markers to not just look at performance, but actual health. And it was staggering, the improvements that they saw across those two participants. One just working out going on a walk for 45 minutes, but bringing up their pace in intervals, and then that long 2-hour getting in the fat burning zone.
Yeah, so we want to teach our patients that you can work out shorter periods of time, but if you're doing it right, it's having a bigger health benefit. And it's going to be more important for the hormone repair that we're doing that high intensity, short duration, because we want to have the release of growth hormone and testosterone elevating with that workout. So afterwards, we can really get into that hormone repair.
Yeah, and I love that type of exercise because you can really teach people that they can do it at any level, because I think, if people are intimidated by starting some type of workout plan, they might be, I have a knee injury, or I'm really out of shape and I'm, nervous, but you can really do it at any level. Like he was saying, just with walking, just, increasing that intensity for, 20, 30 seconds at a time, then slowing back down and then doing it again. And like you said, it's shorter, so anybody can do it because it's a short amount of time.
Well, and I remember when Erin and I first started dating, we would work out together. We'd go to the gym, and I worked out like the bodybuilding style of working out, where it was like Monday was universal chest day, and you're in there for 2 hours, and you maybe actually work for about 15 minutes total. The rest of it is like recovery time, and we're talking to our friends, and it's not at all productive.
Right. I think my time at the gym was like an hour of cardio. That I was like switching from a stair stepper to elliptical to running. Yep. And it was just like probably hour and a half of cardio that I was doing on a consistent basis. and that was before we had kids and a business. And thinking about that now, like there's no way in heck that could happen.
Well, no, there wouldn't be. I mean, there wouldn't be any time, and it just sounds so boring.
Yes.
Silly. So when we talk with people about incorporating exercise, I get when they say I don't have time to exercise. Well,
nobody has time for that.
7 hours extra that they can spend at a gym.
So if you don't have a job and you're living with your mom and dad, that's probably the only time you have the ability to do that.
Right. Right.
Exercise.
So, when we really got into metabolic conditioning, at first, I kind of looked down at it because I was at that point when we started seeing metabolic conditioning and high intensity interval training come out. I was into CrossFit. I was actually coaching CrossFit at the time. So I said, well, our exercise program, we call Max T3. I'll do that as my warm up for CrossFit. And since I've stopped coaching CrossFit and I've only focused on high intensity interval training and max T3, I realized I was just sandbagging the warm-ups, because if you go all in and you really put your best effort, you can get a phenomenal workout in just 12 minutes.
In that time period that you're in the work phase, if you're getting to 80-90% of your maximum heart rate, it doesn't matter what movement you're doing. If you're shooting your heart rate up and down like that through that short period, I mean, you are going to get your butt kicked during it. And I love that, we can work out now for 12 minutes and there's better results from when I was spending an hour and a half doing cardio. I'd much rather get my butt kicked for 12 minutes and then be done and move on with things.
And it almost sounds too good to be true, but it's really is. Like, I was doing it the other day and there was like, yeah, you've just done 2 minutes of exercise, and I'm just like laying there dying. I'm like, oh my gosh. No, it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think I went from the mindset of I was calorie restricting and eating everything low fat and being on a, treadmill, doing cardio, 5 days a week, and, doing competitive dancing. There was a weight component of it. We had weigh-ins all the time. And so that's what I did to try to keep my weight down. And it sucked. Yeah. Like I was hungry all the time. Like low fat stuff tastes like crap and
it has more sugar.
Yeah. And it's exhausting. And I love that, we switched to this way of eating. I was a little bit hesitant at first because I was so used to that calorie restricting that I was like, gosh, I'm going to gain all this weight, and just kind of freaking out about it. But I love that, my weight's been the most stable, and I feel like I'm better now than I was years ago when I was doing that. And I'm working out less time, eating more fat. The food tastes awesome, way more calories, and energy's better.
So for everyone listening, the way this works and how metabolic conditioning is so effective is the term that we refer to, how you get that fat burning for up to 36 hours for just doing 12 minutes of intense work. It's the afterburn effect, or excess post-oxygen consumption. And what happens during your workout is you work at these highly intense intervals for 20, 30 seconds at a time, and it burns through the sugar portion of your energy phase. So if you have glycogen first, then the creatine phosphate, then you go into fat burning. What we're doing during this 12-minute workout is we're exhausting our body's glycogen source. So we're burning up all of our sugar during the workout. And then afterwards, because that system is exhausted, all that's left is fat burning. So then we get into this like sweat afterwards, where you may sweat a little bit during the workout, but then afterwards for like 2-3 hours, you just are pouring sweat. That's the sign that your body has kicked over into fat burning after your workout. That's that afterburn effect, or the excess post-oxygen consumption. You'll see EPOC, or EPOC is a term that you could search, and it gives the information behind it. But that's when you get the benefits of human growth hormone being released, the metabolic repair, blood sugar restabilizing. So that's a little bit of the kind of the nerdy science part of it. But for us, we wanted to do it because I wanted, for the longest time, as soon as Jude was born, I wanted somebody to work out with. I remember when he had, I wanted him to be able to work out with me. I already have somebody with Erin to work out with, but
I already have her.
I wanted a mini me to work out with. So I wanted him there. He was a part of, he'd come with me when I was coaching CrossFit. I remember he sat in a pack and play, and he would watch, and he would come down whenever, to the classes that I was in. But he couldn't do that because it was very technical movements and, sometimes potentially dangerous equipment. So by doing this, as soon as he was able to really just start running around, we incorporated playing. So with families, if you don't have time to necessarily work out and do this type of exercise, in a gym, you can do this with kids just by running around, playing with them, for going all out. We do freeze tag. We'll do like monster freeze tag, where if you get tagged, you have to do a monster thing, or we just make fun, silly things. But that's how we got him into it. And now that he's a little bit older, he's able to, work on pull-ups and do push-ups and burpees, and he'll do like shuttle run. And, we've recorded a bunch of videos together, but it's a fun way to get him excited about exercising, not just something that he needs to do to look a certain way. He could care less. He's a 5-year-old with a 6-pack. He doesn't care. He's just having fun playing.
Well, and he's competitive, so it's funny because he'll do, Zach will be like, okay, you and mom, so you can do the most squats in 30 seconds, go. And so, we had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, it's a game. then, you know? Yeah.
And you have to, there's workouts where he wants to be done. It's a little bit, his attention runs out and he's over it after about 8 minutes and we're not quite finished. So, you know, we go through that as well, where it's like, no, we're finishing what we started. So that's been part of our motto as our family, Zovaths don't give up. That's what we do. We see things out, and working out or exercising is part of that. So, but we've had to incentivize things too, where, I mean, if you saw the video where he worked out every day during a week and he didn't complain, he got to smash the birthday cake in my face. So that was a fun video to record. And to him, he loved doing it because he watched that Andy Samberg video, the throw it on the ground. So he's, for the longest time, could care less about eating a birthday cake.
He just wanted to smash it on the ground.
So that's funny. We used to incentivize just making healthy choices. And for him, it was a really fun video to shoot with him.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's I mean, what it's all about is just, you know, teaching them young and getting them involved young. So as they grow up, like, it's just part of who they are, and like, it's just normal, and I love it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, what are ways for people to follow what you guys are doing and follow the information that you guys are putting out? That way, you know, they're getting the right information, and, you know, just keep up with what you guys are doing on social media or any websites that you guys have?
Probably the best way to keep up with us is through Facebook. It's super easy, facebook.com/boldcity. That'll connect you to us on Facebook. We do Instagram, we're at Bold City. And then if you wanted to follow our exercise videos or the adventures of Jude and me working, or Jude and I working out, and that it's a really complex one because I don't have enough subscribers yet. But if you go to tinyurl.com/Bold City, so everything Bold City, that'll connect you with us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Yeah, and we're doing our big health makeover this Saturday. We have all of our events that we do are on Eventbrite. So you can go to boldcity.events, and that has all of our workshops that we're doing. We're actually going to be recording this workshop, and once we get everything edited with it, we'll be posting on Facebook, where the link is that they can go to. So we're going to be really getting into like 2 hours of ketosis. So awesome. If you really want to get into it, that's going to be a great thing to look for.
Cool. So the video will be recorded then, not live, right?
It's going to be recorded. We're working on making so it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be local in Jacksonville to attend our workshop. So everything will have a digital front to it. This one, because we were doing fundraising for a couple of nonprofits in our community, we were selling tickets. So most of the time, or almost always, we'll have a live workshop, but this one is going to be pre-recorded, and then the information is going to be sent out. It'll be sent out
the following week,
like a private link. So if you have any of your listeners, I'll talk with you when we finish up about a promo code. If you have any listeners that want to subscribe to that, we'll make a promo code for them to be able to get on that for free and check out the content. Yeah,
that'll be great. Any of the links we talked about, I'll put it in the show notes. That way people can just go and click and check you guys out like that. And then, when we jump off, if you want to send me that code, I'll include the code in the show notes too as well. That would be awesome.
Awesome.
But yeah, and if you guys are actually in the Jacksonville area or close by, you know, go check out their office over at Bold City Health. They're amazing. Their staff is amazing, and you know, they're just doing a lot of really great work. So yeah, but thank you guys so much for coming on. I love you both, and I'm excited for all of the work that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Casey.